Our relationship doesn't look like the ideal relationship that people have in their heads. Why now in the book? Well, it came out of doing speaking at the first 10X Growth Con. Grant had asked me to speak, and that's the thing with being with someone like a Grant, is that you always have to be ready and be willing to do whatever, whenever. That really wasn't my vision, but when he says you're speaking at the 10X Growth Con, I'm like, yeah, I have to step up. So I did, and then I realized from that event that we do actually have a different way of thinking, where I thought the way that we are in a relationship was more mainstream and everyone kind of thought this way. So then I saw the need for so many people kept coming to me with more questions and, wow, you changed my viewpoint on this and that. So I spoke at 10X Growth Con 2, and the same thing. Now I'm just kind of developing it out. And again, this book idea came from Grant. I'm not gonna lie, because I never liked school. I stopped at 17. As soon as I was done with high school, I was done. Anyway, I protested anything having to sit down, be still, write. But he really encouraged me to do it and said, stop being so selfish. You know, there are people out there that want this and material, and it can benefit them. So I wrote the book. It took me about a year because I stopped for several months. I'm actually a very closed book. I don't talk about things. I don't talk to people about things. I'm very private. Ironically, as much as we are transparent and out there, it's not my comfort zone to be that way. So I stopped the book for a little while, saying this is, all those insecurities that you have. That's when Grant called me lazy and a coward. It really upset me and infuriated me. I sat down. I didn't even leave the house for the last 2 months and finished the book. I rewrote it like 3 times in 2 months. So I actually told Grant, I've actually written 6 books. It just happened to be the same book. But now that it was done, you see, that's again, and that goes to kind of like what our relationship is. Our relationship doesn't look like the ideal relationship that people have in their heads, where we are so in love all the time and we're so happy all the time. Our relationship looks like you're lazy and a coward, but now that I have this product that I'm holding, and people have been writing me saying it has changed them, and I'll get to what it's going to help you with. And all the successes they're having for it. I feel so proud of myself. And now I'm even more in love with Grant for giving me the push, which didn't come in the form of the way it should look like in a relationship, but came in another way to get the best version of me. And so that is what this book is about. It's about how to, if you're single, how to start thinking in terms of an empire. Why think in terms of an empire? Because you can't afford not to. Normal doesn't work. Normal mentality and thinking can't withstand impacts of economic collapses, deaths, sicknesses, infidelities. So it gets the single person in terms of thinking in terms of empire building, protecting, growing, how to think, who to have in your life, and the fast track of what we did over the last 15 years, things to eliminate the mistakes that we made and the things that did work to boost you, because I don't want it to take other people 10 years. If you can do it in 5, that would make everything that I have done and gone through worth it. I took a look at what are all my beliefs on money and rich people and relationships and all the ideas. I used to think relationships hold you back. So every single relationship I had been in prior to Grant, every single guy held me back. They wanted me to stop. They didn't like my vision of I'm going to change the world. Why do you think so big? That's so ridiculous, So I found all the people and I found all the men in my life that fit my criteria, that all men hold me back. So those ideas and ways of thinking that have been ingrained in you from who cares? It doesn't matter, your mom, your dad, society, whatever. But if you actually write a list of everything that you think and then start thinking, well, how do I really feel about that? Do I have an issue with that? Or is that from someplace else? And I think that's how you start breaking the mold and start being able to think for yourself and think, am I okay with this? Am I not okay? How do I that kind of breaks the mold. And then, of course, hanging out with other people, other like-minded people. And that really kind of supports your way, because it is different. It is not normal. And sometimes when you're outside of the box, it makes the normal people a little uncomfortable. They like being comfortable. They don't like being pushed. They don't like being challenged. They don't like losing you to success, or their perceived idea that you're not going to now have time for them, or this and that. So they have to send in the little jabs. Oh, you look tired. When do you ever take a break? All those little things that start making you go, God, do I look bad? Do I need sleep? And you know what I'm saying? So get so busy with your life that you just actually don't have time for those people. Or you tell them, hey, when I come in and I say, hey, I just wrote a book and blah, 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 the thing would be, wow, that's awesome, or you tell them how you want them to react, not, and sometimes just that little education helps, because these people, they love you. They just don't really, whatever they're going through in their life, they can only express it or show it with what they've got going on, and not maybe the way you want them to do it. So sometimes it's just a little education. And sometimes after you've given them the little education and they continue, then it's time to say, you know what, we're going to have a little time out. And I've done that in life too. I've taken a time out from people, especially kind of family members. I say this all the time. It's easier to change the world in your own family. And sometimes they don't, I came from a different way than I am now. So it's hard for them to see your future self when they've only seen your past, given up on things, failures, and in the road to entrepreneurialism, as you know, you're going to have the stumbles, you're going to have the setbacks, and you don't need somebody going, see, told you, just like you did. Oh, you don't need that in your head during that period from when you were this person to this person. So sometimes this little break in between is okay. And then when you become this person, you can let them back in, because now all the little noise that they might chitter at you is laughable. You're like, it's like water. I'm ruthless. I would take, fortunately I don't have to, because my mom is my best friend. But I would, if mom was detrimental to my survival and really not on board to the point where it was holding me down and suppressing me, where I felt like I had to eat what I call, I say SHIT, sandwiches, but I don't like to curse. I only curse at the gym and on the gun range. Those are my policies. But I don't want to have to eat that around people all the time. I don't want to feel confused, So again, I would tell my mom, look, this is how I expect you to react, and because this is why this matters to me. I want to be happy. I want to do my life. I want to do big things, and I want your support, and try to solicit the support. And then if that doesn't work, if you can be around them, and you still don't want to cut them out of your life, then just don't talk about the things that are the hot buttons. Keep it like where you can talk about things that don't matter. Talk about the trees, talk about the groceries, talk about things that are not hot items. Don't talk about your career, don't talk about your love, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, all the things that might be the trigger points. Don't set yourself up for that. Just keep it like easy chit-chat conversation. Everyone's heard of the list. You write down the list, right, of everything you want in the partner. But that's not where it stops. You write down the list of everything that you want in the partner, like the real stuff, not the insignificant stuff. The first 2 items on my list were completely insignificant, 6'2" and green eyes. Didn't matter, and it prevented me from actually recognizing Grant for an entire 13 months. But the other stuff, ethically ambitious, monogamous, doesn't drink alcohol, do drugs, loves, whatever. My list was my list. When I wrote this list, I then realized I had this cognition. I thought, well, if this perfect guy were to write a list of his perfect woman, what would it look like? So from that perspective, I started to write the list of the perfect woman, which was in his mind. wants to be married, have kids, doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, fun, the girls kind of guy, likes sports, can get into things. I wrote down this thing. And then I realized, well, as I was a lot of those things on the list, I wasn't a lot of things on those lists. And that's when I started working on myself, because I realized this guy, I was not going to show up in his world the way that I was at the present time. Because I was going into clubs all the time. I was dating all these kind of guys. I mean, I was just having fun. I was independent. I didn't need a guy. And I would think that the guy that I would want to be with would want to be with one girl that wanted him too and made him feel important. And that wasn't who I was at that time. I needed to learn how to do those kind of things, care about somebody else as much as I had cared about myself back then.